Regular meeting of the Burlington Board of Health to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Ed Weiner, Chairman, and along with me this evening are board members, Vice Chair, Mr. David McSweeney, and members, Ms. Andrea Sheehan, Ms. Gail Demore, and Mary Beth Welch, Ms. Mary Beth Welch. Also tonight are our Director of Public Health, Susan Luminello, our Associate Director of Public Health, Michael Green, our Environmental Engineer, Chris Mathis, and our Recording Secretary, Eric Bergeron. Please note we are live on and will be taped by BCAT and available for appropriate comments and questions through this video technology. And thank you for BCAT for what you do for this community, keeping us all aware and so well informed. We first have approval of the minutes from January 24th, 2023. What is your pleasure? Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Ms. Sheehan, second by Ms. Demore. Any other comments, deletions, discussion? No? All in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
Okay, so it would be 302. Correct? Okay. Which brings me to subcommittee reports. Are there any this evening? I don't think there are any this evening. And citizens' time. Does anyone who is not on the agenda would like to speak to this board? Is there anybody on?
No.
Because then we will move on to citizens, to Chairman's report, which I will specifically put out of order. For my colleagues who were here at our last regular meeting, I am sure that you are surprised that we had a citizens' time this evening. I want to let you know that I have new information and there is new understanding on the issue. Since our last meeting, I have discussed the issue again with a key selectman and with the town clerk. Has also been quite time-consuming and quite educational to, quote, figure out what's happening. Thus, we will continue to incorporate citizens' time into our meetings. Tonight, we'll reorganize the board at the end of the meeting. The chairman, whoever that is, should ask for an individual for a subcommittee to join them in a review of the standing policies that we have, the new state Supreme Court rulings, and if necessary, meet with town council and present to this board what will be sufficient to accomplish what we need to do and serve this town. I want to thank you for not letting me jump the gun. We have new understanding and new work to figure out what to do with citizens' time, but I think we can work this out based on the new understanding, new information I was given. So thank you very much. I'd like to take a few things out of order this evening. We have a number of guests. I would like to take first individuals who would like to present the Mama Bear Effect. And then we have Mr. Scott Martin, who will present General Bylaw Review Committee remote meetings. And I'd like to do that as well as the keeping of animals for 9 Crawford Road. And I do that because the application this evening will include a presentation, possibly a video, and a long discussion. So I would like to ask to take those 3 agenda items out of sequence.
Motion to approve.
I have a motion. Mr. McSweeney, second?
Second.
Second by Mary Beth. All in favor? Aye. Thank you very much. So I think the first thing we need to do is bring up the Mama Bear effect. And Susan, where would be best to present them? Right up at the,
Yeah.
would you please, there are three people, would you please print your names? Okay. Are there enough chairs?
Oh, I can grab one.
I can slide down.
Oh,
She got one.
Okay,
I got one.
all right.
and please, your names, please, so as soon as you finish signing in.
My name is Adrienne Simeone, and I am a resident of Burlington.
Adrian, what's the last name?
Simeone.
Thank you.
My name is Delvar Mamedzadeh. I'm a resident of Natick.
Could you please speak into the microphone? Thank you. I can barely hear you.
No, it doesn't go any further.
My name is Delvar Mamedzadeh, and I'm a resident of Natick, Massachusetts.
I can't, what was,
Her name is Delbar, and she's a resident of Natick, Massachusetts. She's part of our board. And she's also a member of the Children's Trust in Boston, so we wanted to talk about their organization as well.
And my name is Jenna Lloyd, and I am a resident of Burlington.
Is Jenna?
Jenna, yep, Jenna.
Well, thank you for coming. The floor is all yours.
Thank you so much. So I founded this organization called the Mama Bear Effect over 10 years ago to address what I saw was a need for improved awareness and educational resources for the prevention of child sexual abuse. The CDC estimates that 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 13 boys are being affected by child sexual abuse before they turn 18. This has been an epidemic. It's been recognized as an epidemic for decades now, and there is also a recognized need for improved policies and efforts to address this issue in terms of raising awareness, educating the public, and properly investigating ways to prevent this from happening to children. A lot of the work that we do on a societal level is often responding to child sexual abuse. We also know that the vast majority of it will never be reported during that child's childhood, and very few cases will actually ever get reported to the police, let alone have a criminal investigation or a trial. So when we think about the issues of child sexual abuse, a lot of times it's framed as a crime, but when we think about the impact on children, it is very much a public health issue. It affects the mental wellness of children, their ability to learn, to thrive, to understand healthy relationships, what it means to be in a safe relationship. It also affects them biologically. It can affect their digestive system. They're more likely to have issues like Crohn's disease, irritable bowel syndrome. They're more likely to have autoimmune disorders, skin disorders, eczema. So there's a whole host of issues, migraines, all these kinds of things that children often will seek medical attention for. And a lot of times it doesn't necessarily get detected as a symptom of trauma and abuse when they're under the care of a physician. There was recent research showing that there are a number of children that are being diagnosed as having ADHD, but it's not ADHD, it's actually PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder. So when we think about the impact on children and the opportunity that we have to help them to prevent this kind of abuse, it's phenomenal what we can do to help protect children. And a lot of it involves raising awareness for this issue because there's simply not enough awareness in our society about how prevalent this issue is and how it's being perpetrated. That over 93% of cases, the perpetrator is someone known and trusted by the child, often a family member. But in about 40% of cases, the perpetrator is actually a juvenile. It's another child. And a lot of that has to do with, again, a lack of awareness and proper education of children, supervision, and also we're seeing increasing rates of abuse being correlated to exposure to pornography. So a lot of this, myself as a parent here in Burlington, I have 4 children, and a lot of people, of course, know me here as the Mama Bear, so when situations pop up in schools, on the school bus, and play dates or different things, a lot of people reach out to me to ask for guidance about these situations. So I know how it affects our whole society, our whole community. It can happen in school bathrooms, on the school bus, at play dates, and youth groups. So when I see the opportunities that we can simply raise awareness for this by uniting as a community and saying we recognize that this is an issue and that educating parents is essential. A lot of the work in the 1980s when they first started really doing some digging into this issue was really focused on kind of teaching children stranger danger tactics because they really wanted to hopefully help children prevent abuse. But now we know that the best way to prevent abuse is for adults to take that responsibility, minimizing situations, understanding red flag behaviors that can indicate someone may be a risk to children, understanding sexual behaviors in children so we can understand how to properly respond to those and provide treatment and therapy to children who may have problematic sexual behaviors. So in the course of our organization, we have built up a very extensive library of educational resources that we actually work on a national level through a number of other nonprofits, mostly child advocacy centers and other government organizations that have invested the funds to do community outreach. Most recently, last year, we finished a research project because we wanted to understand how could we better support parents, and what did they really understand about the issues of child sexual abuse, which we have the report here tonight. We'll be sharing it with you. But we found is that parents very much are interested in learning about this issue, and they believe this is an important issue. But when it comes to where do they gain access to abuse prevention education, for the most part, they're receiving information by searching the internet themselves. There's not a lot of resources that are pushing them on to families to give them access to them. For the most part, they're looking for it themselves. And myself, when it comes to being on social media, a lot of parents will say, I want to learn about this, but I don't know where to start. And so I think right there we have an amazing opportunity. So when we did our research, we asked parents, where would you like to be learning about this issue? Where do you think educational materials should be distributed? And the top 3 resources were school systems. They felt schools could be sharing this, sending kind of information home to parents, police and public service departments, and also pediatricians and family practitioners. Over 90% of parents agreed or strongly agreed that their pediatricians should be sharing this kind of prevention education. And we actually partnered with a pediatrician. His name is Dr. Martin Finkel. He was one of the leading pediatricians. Are you familiar with Martin Finkel? He was one of the leading pediatricians that identified best practices in identifying physical signs of sexual abuse in children. And he just retired last year. And we are fortunate enough to put together a pediatric best practices guide for pediatricians. I don't know if a educational material like this really exists on a grand scheme, but there are a lot of these things that we have been pioneering because they simply have not been created. But his battle cry for 40 years was that pediatricians need to be doing more. And it's a tough conversation to have, but for whatever reason, the powers that be, the AAP, all these major organizations that could be improving this, they're not invested in it. They do not share this kind of information with their pediatricians. And he himself doesn't even quite understand why it's so hard to get people on board with it. A lot of it has to do with personal discomfort, a fear of having to take responsibility and the liability of if you see a case of child sexual abuse or you suspect it, what are you going to do with that? What are the consequences of it? But ultimately, I think we need to stop thinking about ourselves, what is our discomfort, what are our liabilities, and start thinking more about the children who are experiencing this on a daily basis. Because when we think about those statistics, we know that there are children right here in this town who need help. And they don't know who's going to believe them. They might not have the words to tell somebody. They might not know what's going to happen as a result of making that disclosure. So I think right then and there, we have a responsibility and a duty as good moral people to be a voice for those children so they can know that there are people that are fighting for them and they believe them and they believe they deserve to be safe. So we've put together pediatric kits that we've begun donating this year as a pilot project to help engage pediatricians in sharing this prevention education. But we'd also like to do more just in the community of Burlington itself. What can we do to set an example for all the organizations that work with children, daycare centers, the schools, the recreation department, all these different ways in which children interact with adults where there's the opportunity for risk? Because there's really no one situation where children are guaranteed to be safe. So if they're taking a...
What would you like us to do? I know we talked a little bit about it. You will be part of our community health fair that's coming up.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we've received their application.
They will be.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So that
Yeah.
was wonderful. Thank you very much. What else can,
Well, I want to have Delbar talk a little bit about the Children's Trust because they actually offered trainings for youth-serving organizations. So I think one thing we could certainly do is reach out to pediatricians, reach out to the school system, encourage them to engage these types of materials and disperse them to families. But also, we have a risk. It is a public health risk if children are engaging with adults that are not trained on sexual abuse prevention. So I wanted Delbar to talk a little bit about their trainings.
Delmar?
Hi, everyone. I'll try to speak loudly and clearly. Again, my name is Delbar Mamedzadeh. I'm the Parent Content and Prevention Specialist at the Children's Trust. The Children's Trust is a quasi-nonprofit state agency based out of Boston. So we're co-chairs with the Massachusetts Legislative Task Force on the Prevention of Child Sexual Abuse. And many people don't know about this task force, but it consists of 28 different offices, agencies, child and youth serving organizations across Massachusetts. And we work closely with them because the mission of the Children's Trust is to prevent child abuse. I work specifically in our child sexual abuse prevention tasks. Unfortunately, a risk factor for child sexual abuse is simply being a child. And we want to look at this through a public health perspective because by the time that a crime is reported and a child is getting the help they need, well, that's tertiary prevention, and we want that to not happen or occur in the first place, so we're working on primary prevention. And so I just wanted everyone to be aware of the work that the Children's Trust is doing and bringing awareness on the fact that child sexual abuse is completely preventable. It doesn't need to occur at all, but it is a responsibility of us adults and people in leadership and power to really take a stand. And so what we've created at the Children's Trust is a website called Safe Kids Thrive, which gives everyone who works in a youth-serving organization.
Can you repeat that? I want people to hear this and I want to get that. So what is the website again?
The website is called safekidsthrive.org. I will be giving everyone a handout. So what this website is like I mentioned before, we're the co-chair with the Massachusetts Legislative Task Force on the Prevention of Child Sexual Abuse. This task force released a 100-page report on the best practices to prevent child sexual abuse in any youth-serving organization. However, that report, again, is 100 pages, and we understand that not everyone is going to take the time to read that 100-page report, and we wanted to make sure it's accessible to everyone in the Commonwealth. So we took the 8 elements of prevention that the report talks about and put it in a website so that it's accessible to anyone in a leadership position who works at a youth-serving organization. And by youth-serving organization, I mean not just a school, but really the local karate studio, piano lessons, just anywhere that there are children, there is a risk for child sexual abuse. And so on this website, we talk about the 8 elements of prevention, bringing awareness to the fact that youth-serving organizations can prevent child sexual abuse, and we give them the tools at no cost. All of these tools are research-based, evidence-informed, again, from the task force. And so I'm here today just to give more light on this website. I'll hand this out to everyone, but we would love for everyone in Massachusetts and again in Burlington to know that it is preventable and there are steps you can take, and we want to bring awareness to that. And also the Children's Trust provides free trainings on child sexual abuse prevention, child abuse prevention, strengthening families, raising healthy families. And so I just want to bring awareness to the fact that you can go on our website, the Children's Trust. Please go on safekidsthrive.org. But in general, reach out to me or anyone at the Children's Trust for anyone in Burlington that needs a free training on child sexual abuse prevention.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately what we would love to see is just more support from the community, especially, from the board, just sharing with the community that this is an important issue and this is something that people should learn about. And especially youth-serving organizations should, look into the resources to improve their ability to keep children safe, because it's not just about child safety, but they're also protecting their business as well when they do that. So it's an overall investment for the business itself and children.
Thank you. Well, Ms. Jenna.
I'm just here.
you-
I'm just support.
You're part of this community. You live in Burlington.
I do.
I want to make sure that, is there anything you'd like to say?
No, I think they've covered everything.
Okay, but I want.
Thank you.
Any questions from the board?
I have two. So I'm very familiar with your program. It was actually the first meeting I went to when I joined the board 10 years ago at the local Legion. So I do have a question. You talked a lot about prevention. Do you already have established local youth programs or schools where the adult is sharing with the children this preventive tactics? Because you talk a lot about prevention like before. Is that training happening now in certain local
Well,
communities?
the training that Delbar was referring to is mostly for adults. It's not really for adults to teach children. That's like that's a whole other. That would be more like an Aaron's Law,
Okay.
where it's like mandated child education, which that has been passed in a number of states, but that has not been passed yet in Massachusetts, unfortunately. So right now, I'm not sure if I don't think any school system here in Burlington is providing any body safety education to students, and we don't really have the task, the manpower to do something like that. But I would love to see that happen in Burlington for sure.
Thank you very much.
Great program.
Thank you. Any other questions?
It was actually answered.
Okay.
I just have a comment. First, your work is commendable, and something that is definitely, unfortunately, needed in the community. And you hear it on the news more and more often, and I'm sure it's probably a lot closer to home than we probably all imagine. I would just, again, very commendable in the work that you're doing. If there are things that you can think of that we can continue to get the word out as a public board in Burlington, let us know, and the staff here is phenomenal. They'll definitely work with you, whether we can, I don't know if we can put stuff on our website and links and other things that we can do. We have some grants, I don't know if there's anything we can do there to not necessarily have a program around it, but share it with the other communities around Burlington. I'm sure you
That's a
already
good
thought
idea.
about all of this, right? But,
So we did meet,
yeah.
I did meet with them before this meeting, and we talked about some possible ideas about getting, the word out and getting these resources to different organizations. Some of the things we talked about was starting with our nurse, when we get a nurse, and
Exactly,
because the
once we
nurses
get one.
gives vaccines for
Yeah.
children, and then maybe trying to get into the nurses at the schools, and getting them the information. We don't have a nurse yet, but when we do, that might be one of the things that we can do and go through the shared services program to do that. Maybe also bring it to Lexington and
I was
Wilmington.
just thinking,
Right,
when you
so-
said the shared services, the surrounding towns, great.
Right. Yeah, so starting there, and then we also have the Medical Reserve Corps with a lot of nurses. So I know it's difficult to get to doctors, but sometimes the nurses can, might be helpful to get to the nurses who can then get to the doctors. So maybe doing that training for our Medical Reserve Corps and the nurses in our Medical
great.
Reserve Corps, or even just the medical people or lay people who might want to have the information. So that was some of the things that we talked about.
Yeah, I guess my point is, hopefully this is not a one and done. We're here to support, this is a great program, and again, an unfortunate program that's needed, but certainly a great program. And I think if there's things that we can do ongoing to work together to support the, the education that's needed, we're here to support you, for sure.
Yeah, no, thank you very much. And speaking of, grant funding, I mean, we are happy to donate educational materials, but if there ever is the opportunity where there's a grant out there that would help cover the cost of the educational materials, that would certainly be a wonderful opportunity to help us continue this work.
Well, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you so
Really
much.
appreciate it. And you're really speaking to not only 5 members, plus our staff here, you're really speaking to almost 400 members of our Medical Reserve Corps, and maybe we could talk about a program in the future. But thank you so much for coming in.
How do you want us to do, is it okay if Jenna comes around the front and drops them off? Okay, thank you so much.
Have they been invited to be on the faculty?
No, but that's a good idea. We need to reach out to them. If you, one other, we have a Board of Health, we're
You just
developing.
take one for
and it's been
staff,
announced,
right?
A Board of Health faculty.
We only need one for the staff.
If you would like to
So you don't
join
have
that
enough?
faculty, look on our website, and that might give you other opportunities to present.
Okay, great, thank you.
Oh, cool, thank you.
Susan, that was the first subcommittee that Wayne didn't do
I
it.
didn't want you
Do
to
you
go.
remember that? Yeah. Because they came and called and they wanted to, it was with Ruben and the Burlington Police. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's the very first one. 10 years ago. Thank you. I know, that's when I started. Come on.
Yes, we're around for a long time.
That was my first subcommittee.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, Wayne had me go.
Perfect, thank you.
That's how long I've been here.
10 years?
I think I have some.
Yes, you do, from the back.
I have a set, Susan.
They just started. Like, it
You had
just
just
started.
That's
They
okay.
did too.
Excellent, thank you.
Thank you so much. Our next agenda item is General Bylaw Review Committee, remote meetings, and presenting tonight is Scott Martin. Mr. Martin, please, could you sign in?
Yes, I did.
Perfectly. Thank you. The floor is yours.
Thank you, everybody, for including us on the committee tonight, on your meeting. With me online is Dave Miller. He's another member of the General Bylaw Review Committee. And so hopefully, if I can't answer, he can answer. I am the chair of the General Bylaw Review Committee and also a town meeting member of Precinct 7. And we, in December last year, we put together.
Mr. Martin, maybe you should move over one. I think the microphone is
One?
better.
Can you turn
Okay.
these up, Susan?
Do that. If I took off my mask, it'd probably even be better, but I won't. Anyway, for the January town meeting, we had included on the warrant 5 different articles that were needed to put together to allow the town meetings, not just the town meeting, the 3 town meetings, but all 400 and some odd meetings that take place, this being one of them, to have remote access in our bylaws, because right now there is nothing. Even at the state level, the open meeting laws do not include that. And we were trying to get ahead of the curve because we saw that during COVID, we actually could do remote access, either total virtual meetings or hybrid meetings. A lot of the committees were meeting that way. And so we've had experience doing it. We felt that we could probably do this. The two things need to happen. We broke them down into the two different pieces, the open meeting laws, so that meetings like this had one set of laws, or were covered under one set. And the second set was for the town meeting itself, the official town meeting, the 3 meetings that we have each year. Those have a little bit different twist to them because they are run by a moderator and held at the gym and at the amphitheater at the high school, et cetera. And each one of them needs to be, we have to ask the legislature to approve those changes in the Constitution that created Burlington. Those bylaws, as we put them in, basically said that at the decision of the committee or board, they could hold a meeting any way they'd like. Basically, you could do it remotely, totally remotely, as in a total virtual meeting, or a hybrid meeting where some people were in a room and some people were joining us like Dave is. Or they could decide, I don't want to do that at all. We're going to have totally in-person meetings, and that's just the way this committee works. But it laid out some things. Anyway, laid out some of the rules and the way that you would vote and the way that you'd keep track of what's going on. We modeled our bylaws that we were proposing on a little town called Brookline. There are 6 or 7 other towns in the state that are in the process of going through this. Brookline was the first one, and it appeared that they had a good handle on everything that was doing. We're not sure exactly the process is that the legislature has to approve the request, and then they go to the Attorney General. Same thing would happen with us. So what we withdrew the articles for the January warrant, primarily because we didn't have all of the backup information that we thought we would need to get the support of everybody and answer all of the questions that would be asked of us. So we withdrew it, and we're hoping to have this back on the this fall's town meeting warrant. So as part of our efforts to figure out, did we do everything right and what are the answers that we need to have available, we've chosen various boards and committees to come before and ask for your comments, your concerns, your suggestions, what things that we should be including in the bylaws. And then after we get all of this stuff put together, we'll go back and mash it all together and see how many changes that we need to make to the original articles that we put together. So I just would like to open it up to you folks to, if you had, I thought earlier today that, gee whiz, maybe you don't have last January's warrant, so the articles you wouldn't see. So that's why I sent them to Susan to resend them. They are kind of long, and there's some definitions that we need to make changes. We already know that, and we are in the process of, as I mentioned, talking to several other boards and committees. So if you have specific comments, thoughts?
We only received these this evening.
Right.
Be aware, we've only received these this evening, and we talked a little bit about the regulation that we have, the policy about my one concern, and that my one concern is that we require proponents to have their key individual present at a meeting so we can deliberate on certain policies, certain conditions that are brought before us. We have had situations where the technology has not kept up with our ability to understand what people are saying, or especially if they're from very far away out of the country, as well as our ability to ask specific questions face-to-face. So we require our proponents, for instance, i.e., biotech proponents, to be present in person, at least the key presenter and someone who can answer questions, so we can fully understand, ask questions, and understand all of the nuances. So that one piece is near and dear to us. But I'll open this up to how you want to proceed with the understanding we've only received this evening.
Mr. Chair,
Please.
thank you, and I agree, we only received this, this documentation this evening. I do thank you for coming tonight, but again, I didn't have enough time to review it as well. But you had made a comment that you were reaching out to individual boards as well for comments and participation. And could you, who from the Board of Health is a member? And I'm sorry, I don't know. Is there a member or staff that you
I
remember?
think he's reaching out tonight.
Tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant previously, so I was wondering.
So like last night, we were in front of, members of the GBRC were in front of the Select Board.
Okay, thank you.
We're meeting with the Zoning Board of Bylaw Review Committee. We're meeting with the capital campaign people, the Finance Committee, some of the bigger committees to get their comments and questions.
Thank you. And second, to add with in light of the new, change of remote meetings from the state, that now it is pushed to 2025. Is that correct?
I think it's
Yeah.
20, is it 25?
2025. They just, it was part of the
I think we just received
amendment
that.
to the.
We just received that last week, yes. So in light of that new information, I would like to add that as a discussion for our Board of Health to revisit our current vote and discussion for our board as well. So maybe take that in consideration as you're planning for the town and agenda. But I'd like to, if we can do that at maybe a
So,
previous.
Just to be clear, you want to
next-
add as a discussion item?
Yes, I do.
But what?
There was a vote taken
Right.
that said that we would require somebody to be in the room in order to present.
So you're having that discussion tonight, the public participation.
Oh,
policies
great.
on-
That wasn't clear to me
That's
from the agenda.
I didn't know if that was,
No, I thought that this was this tonight.
So part of, when you had that discussion,
We're-
and
The Board of Health
the
public.
public participation policy, one of the things that, I'm sorry,
Is this,
the last meeting, I guess we didn't include that.
We didn't- we didn't cover that
There was
last
a change, we had to make a change to that policy, we added something to it, and you haven't really voted that in yet, that
yes, it was like a
final
red line, right?
Yes, the red line. We
Right.
had it on the agenda the last time.
Right.
So,
And what I was asking as a board member, I'd like to make a motion to revisit the entire policy that was in place due to the new findings of the remote from the state for
so the
2025.
possibility of changing what you've
Yes.
already done.
Yes,
Okay.
That's, we can do this.
we can do that another meeting
Another
if we need
meeting.
to.
So Susan, anything that, town meeting, like, do we have a power to change or supersede any
Yes.
Yes, we do.
We can-
rule that the
Right,
town,
right now, the open meeting laws
right?
are state directed.
Understood.
Okay, the town meeting, the moderator basically sets the rules, and the rules committee
Yep.
puts things together. There is no,
But do individual boards have the right to develop their own requirements
Absolutely.
that supersede?
Yes,
Yeah,
they-
now they do, but
Yes.
if bylaw goes
That's what I'm
through,
saying, that's what I'm asking.
I'm not sure who's
Gotcha.
gonna be.
Who's going to
Right,
be?
the prevailing.
Right.
That
Right.
that was my question.
So that is the comment. We
and
would
that's
like to
the,
be able
and
to
that's
say.
why we wanted to make sure that it was, we came before you
Right.
to let you know that we were thinking about, and that part of what we've got in here is some direction that it is up to the chair and the committee to actually make the call.
Okay.
What,
We
Of who
can,
would need to be in person?
I'm sorry? That would be something.
The
we-
chairperson would be in charge of saying for the Board of Health, I need someone here?
No.
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 No, the
Okay.
chair would decide how you wanted to have your meetings held.
Okay.
Do you want to even allow remote access? If you decide as a committee, you don't, or board, you don't want to do that.
Well, the
Yeah, I
the
think this
board
board already
makes,
does that.
right.
Right.
yeah.
Who does
We
that
have
now?
hybrid.
The question, I
We
think,
have
is,
hybrid.
It is all about
if this
hybrid.
is passed, would we still be able to set our own policies?
As it's currently written, yes.
Okay. As long as we could set our own policies, I think it'd be fine.
It just puts it down in writing and opens up that, right now, well, town meeting cannot be run anything but in person.
So for the most part, is this focused on town meeting?
No, there's two.
This is focused on
Two
all.
pieces of it. The
That's
open
why I
meeting
was
law.
asking if
Yes.
the bylaw
Confusing.
passes, does it
Does it?
supersede anything that the
So
board, this board can do?
the open meeting laws,
Right.
this would be as strong or stronger than the open meeting laws.
Right.
So
Understood.
after 2025, we would be able to continue doing whatever we're doing for this kind of meeting.
And are you on target to go in front of town meeting in September, or is that's a target? It's-
That's our target.
Okay.
Now, did the town of Brookline, or the city of Brookline, I'm not sure if it's the town or city, were they successful in getting this through the legislature?
It's in the process. The legislature has a certain length of time, and they can put a waive on it to extend that time. And one of the reasons that the open meeting law was extended was because of the 6 or 7 towns that were in the process of doing this. And Ken Gordon and Cindy Friedman knew that we were coming with this, and so they were working on making sure that some of this stuff, so I've reached out to Brookline to see where it stands, because I'm not sure exactly whether it's been approved and whether it's gone to the AG yet or not, but we're working on that.
I understand. So have the other boards that are they taking votes at some point to support this, or are you just looking for this informational?
We're not asking for a vote specifically. It might be that at town meeting, we'd love to be able to say, we presented to these folks, these different boards and committees, and so many of them supported it. If we don't have that, we won't do that, but at this point, it's just more information, and we'd like your input.
Okay, so I think that going forward, that we have to discuss this, and we'll at least get back to you. I have your phone number.
Yes. If you want to send me an email, Susan has
And if
my
necessary-
email, she can send
Yeah,
questions.
put back to Susan.
And put back to Susan.
Yep.
Once we've gone through this, as well as the fact that,
Should come back.
you may have to come back at some point.
That's fine.
Mr. Miller, good evening. I just want to acknowledge you. I know you very well.
Thank you.
I'm sorry.
I just want to say one, Scott, the warrant articles as we had them for January actually required hybrid meetings. That was a big thing when you talk about the emergency legislation that was extended to 2025. That legislation allows towns to hold hybrid or remote meetings. It doesn't require them to. And one thing our board was, because the people like me who have a particular vested interest in having to be able to participate remotely, we wanted all meetings to be able to participate remotely.
And that's what it says, 1.31 of one of the articles, the open meeting shall be a hybrid meeting. So it dictates that as a hybrid meeting, is that correct?
Yeah.
So all meetings would be hybrid meetings.
What that means is that you would have to, when you send out your agenda, you would have a link that people could sign in with. If nobody signed in, then you wouldn't.
Okay, thank you.
The biggest thing that we want to allow is outside participation. It's not so much board members and the people that are on the committees and the town meeting members. It's the other 85% of the community that doesn't even know that we have meetings. Just allow them easy access to getting into the meetings and stuff.
I understand.
But
Mr. Chairman, can I just ask
Sure.
you a question? So I'm just wondering, if this goes through after 2025, have you consulted like a counsel or a lawyer or something about whether or not this would be in conflict with the open meeting law if the open meeting law says it has to be in person?
we've already talked with Lisa Mead, Town Council. She's aware of what we are trying to do. She's sort of waiting for final product before she does her thing. But this would be, we would have to do that first. We'd have to get that along the line.
Well, the other point about that is, that's why you see in the articles, there's sort of two sets for each. This home rule petition, which, or petition from the legislature to give Burlington the authority to do that, basically supersede the open meeting laws, town meetings rules.
Yeah.
So that's why we have the home rule petition, so that we can do that, and we won't be.
And it would have to be at least as strong as state. If the state said one thing, we couldn't make it less than whatever the state said in terms of its strength. The state said may, as long as we said something may, you could say shall, but could. It's little fine words, but that's the kind of stuff it would have to be.
Is there a cost that would be associated with this in regards to upgrading technology? I just asked because I was a town meeting member before I was here.
We've asked the town clerk to provide us with information, and what we got was a lot of dollars and things that are already sunk into providing town meeting. And we're getting back together again with her to go through and determine, okay, is this extra money that you've got here, is it all because of this bylaw that's saying we're going to do this, or is it just something that's already there? For instance, this room already is equipped for remote access.
Correct.
It's got a camera, it's got TV monitors.
The town meeting wasn't exactly equipped.
Well, right, it was not. But
So would there be an upgrade to make it better?
Yes. The school has a lot of that equipment.
Already.
PCs and laptops that were purchased to do the meetings that we had as hybrid or virtual is already existing. So do we need to buy it again? Do we need to buy additional software for WebEx or something? No, I don't.
Minimal.
We pay for it, it's minimal.
Right.
And I think that's a wonderful question, because I'm not sure that the acoustics here, as well as the video here, is the best possible quality that we have had here. And we've had problems in the past. So that's who's going to pay for the extra?
If we have to do upgrades?
Yeah. I mean,
I just feel like every area might be slightly different. Like, I feel like this technology is good.
Well, an applicant shouldn't be penalized for the town's technology.
No.
They have to be.
Correct.
The question is it $10?
But is there a way to incorporate making it better for the town to be able to handle
Well,
being
it's the
hybrid?
direction of society going.
Yeah,
I mean,
Correct.
Correct.
there's really great technologies for all remote type capabilities.
Absolutely.
We should have it.
We should have it.
Yeah, and nobody, and our applicant shouldn't be penalized for it.
There are 10
Correct.
10
Our job
laptops
is to
sitting here.
keep Very good. Well, thank you.
Thank you. One last comment. The question is, if it was $10 per meeting increase, we're talking about over 400 meetings a year.
Yeah.
You know, is it $10 a meeting or is it $10,000 a meeting? I don't think it's 10,000.
No, I just
it's
was
less than
wondering
10.
about the technology in itself and if there would be any type opportunity to upgrade to make it better so it's more substantial, I guess.
Well, you might need it for bandwidth, additional ports for people.
Because you're going to
but
have more people online.
Potentially.
And if you have people calling in to,
Right.
like you said, the rest of the town or whatever, like how would you handle that? You would need
Yeah.
a
Yep.
moderator or somebody to.
And those are the
We'd have
things,
to. If this passes, we'd have to do it.
and that's the kind of thing that we would need to try and identify beforehand so that
Correct.
we had some procedures and things.
I mean, prior to COVID, the open meeting law changed that you could have remote staff, so there was no discussion about technology. So where you are, you should ensure that you can, your technology is at, I mean, that decision wasn't made with technology and
True.
stuff. I mean,
But we could,
I agree with,
Get an upgrade.
good luck with that, but
Thank you very much for
Thank you.
listening to me.
Thank you. We'll be in touch.
Look forward to getting questions and information. from
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Miller.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. 9 Crawford Road, keeping of animals permit. We're sorry,
we got
please
sidetracked.
come up here.
So this is Kayla, and she's looking to have 3 chickens on the property at 9 Crawford Road, which is owned by her mother, who is also here.
You, please, come up here.
it's not scary.
Would you please sign in?
Yeah.
Put your name.
So she has said she's given permission for her to have the chickens on her property. The coop is currently sized for the 3 chickens. It has an attached run.
I love the chicken coop, by the way.
yeah, it's beautiful.
Thank you.
It's nice in some home.
Samantha went out, did an inspection, all the setbacks were met, everything is the way it should be, and she recommends granting the permit.
So, why do you want chickens?
Just because, I want to get eggs, and, I work at a vet office, and people come in with, chickens, and they just seem like very fun animals to own.
I have no
I have
objections.
none. I'd make a motion to approve and
Second.
enjoy.
So we have a motion and we have a second. Any other questions? We don't want to go afoul here.
Again.
All in favor?
Aye.
You have your permit. Thank you for coming, and I'm sorry we kept you here an hour.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Enjoy the chicken.
Enjoy the chicken. Enjoy the eggs.
And thank you, Mother, for coming. Okay. We're going to go back to our agenda now, and that is application of approval of a special permit, 15 Sky Drive, and cycle. Ms. Hung, I did call your office and
Yes,
just
you
let everyone
did.
know that you would be late tonight. We would be late tonight, based on our guests.
You did, Mr. Chair, and it was interesting hearing all of the prior applicants. So, good evening. For the record, Christine Hung from Reamer and Bronstein, attorney for the applicant Ncycle. With me tonight, I have Chris Thorne, who is the VP of Engineering at Ncycle, as well as Victoria Reza,
yeah.
who is the Ncycle metallurgist.
Okay, can I get their names again, please?
Yes, Chris Thorne, Thoren.
Yeah.
And Victoria Vaccarezza, and that's spelled Vaccarezza.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Welcome.
Our environmental engineer?
Sure, I can give a quick introduction and let Chris do his presentation. So Ncycle is currently operating at a small scale at a location in Beverly. They're looking to move their operations to Burlington. They're proposing to occupy the first floor of an existing building at 15 Blue Sky Drive, owned by Nordblom. Their technology is an electro-extraction technology that's used to reclaim metals from various feedstocks. An example of one of the feedstocks would be what's called black mass, which is basically pre-processed and pulverized electric vehicle batteries. They then take that granulated material called the black mass and put it through an extraction process where they target certain metals for recovery based on using different currents. Their end product right now is, for the most part, is a nickel-cobalt combination that has various markets, again, for use in such technologies as your smartphone or an electric vehicle battery. And their technology is a substitute for current market technologies such as pyro technologies where they smelt down the material to recover certain metals, or acid bath extraction, which is not very environmentally friendly. So I'll let Chris give an overview of what they do.
That was a great overview.
Thank you.
Wow. I kind of want you to just keep going.
I didn't say recycle.
I did not mention the issue of mine tailings and mine dumps and that type of, that I have a real interest in, and we can talk about it later.
Yeah, so if it was an investor pitch, I guess I would say we're trying to solve many problems. A supply chain problem that exists today with these metals, one that's going to be exacerbated when the IRA headwinds come into play, where we're having to consolidate in the domestic, and we can only source from certain countries like Canada and Australia. We're starting with recycling because there's 100,000 tons of nickel goes unused in this country today, but we endeavor to go further into the mining space as well. So we've proven our technology will work with ores and tailings to a certain extent. So that's part of our mission. So don't think of us as sort of a recycling company. We're more of a metal extraction company. We have a technology that can extract metals in certain environments, only certain metals. It's not any metal at all, but we're really good with nickel and cobalt, and that's where we're starting because they're prevalent in lithium-ion batteries, and there's just a lot of energy around that, if you will.
Not the rare earths?
Also the rare earths, and that is on the roadmap, and that's probably something we're going to work on in the next year. So our first endeavor is to work through lithium-ion batteries. But yeah, that's absolutely in our roadmap, so thanks for asking about it. So the company is, as Christine said, based in Beverly, Massachusetts. We're in a pretty small footprint there. We are looking to expand. The company's about 30 people right now. Our present state as a startup is working through Series B funding. And with that, we intend to expand from 30 people to roughly 80 this year. It'll be difficult to actually expand that quickly this year, but in the next year, sort of starting now. So we need a new footprint. Is the way it works out. And then we hope to swell to about 120 people. My background, I've been at the company since June, so I've been there about 9 months now. I have a mechanical engineering undergrad, master's in computer science. I've been in product development for over 20 years. I spent the last 16 years at Bose Corporation in Framingham, and my joining this company was very much, I without hesitation or any embarrassment, tell you it was a calling to want to do something to address global warming, to address sort of what we're doing to the Earth with, and to basically support this global transition in energy. I will let Victoria introduce herself, and then I'll go back to the founding of the company.
So my name is Victoria Vaccarezza. I'm the metallurgical engineer at Encycle. My background is in material science, and then I got my doctorate in metallurgical and materials engineering with a focus in extractive metallurgy. So I did a lot of projects that dealt with extractive technologies around ores, as well as recycling of automotive paint sludge. So like Chris, I think that this job kind of was perfect because it did sort of like call to me as well. I wanted to sort of give mining a better name just because it's always, been infamous. And that was what led me to Encycle, as well as also, we're moving towards this electrified future, and we do believe that a lot of the metals that we do need are already in circulation, and we just have to get them back.
So the company was founded in 2017. The technology was developed over the course of a decade in a few places, but predominantly at Harvard University by one of our co-founders. His name is Chad Vasitas. He was developing the technology to remove metals from water. He was working on a water purification system. Megan O'Connor, who is our CEO and also a co-founder, she was studying at Duke at the time in environmental engineering and had a keen interest in circular economies. And she worked her way into a presentation that Chad was doing and spoke with him after and came up with the idea of dosing this water stream with a recycle stream and using the same technology to very selectively target metals to pull out of a slurry of many metals. And thus the company was formed. Shortly after she graduated with her PhD, they founded the company. They had humble beginnings in Tennessee, then moved to Hyde Park, got to Series A with basically the lab size core tech working. So essentially the science worked, and then they expanded into the Beverly facility, grew to the next size. So they basically took the active area of that technology, grew it 10x, and then proved that they could scale this with a 10x form factor. Upon my arriving, which had nothing to do with me, it just happened to be coincidental in the timing, grew to the commercial size. So we have now every cliche startup cliche you've ever heard is all real, and scaling is one of them. So when you get to the size where we're at now, we're working through the engineering.
You want me to?
Not yet.
Okay.
I'm getting there. I wanted to do a little preamble of the company first, and that's what we're working through now as we develop a facility in Ohio for our commercial operation. So that's underway presently.
So this is an R&D facility?
This is an R&D facility in Burlington. Correct. Yep. This is where we essentially test the applicability of our technology to different feed streams, and we're starting with the lithium-ion battery black mass, but we will move into to mining shortly. So the presentation we have is 14 pages, 14 slides, I guess. We're going to talk a little bit about the problem, who we are, and then what we're planning to do in Burlington. But I think you've got a pretty good overview here. Yep. Okay. That's one. We're going to try that video or not so much?
This is it here?
It is here, yeah.
See the little arrow on the left. Yep.
We tried this morning in the department head meeting, and we were unable to get audio.
Yeah.
What I can do if it doesn't work is I can send a link around to.
We have the link.
But you're right. Oops.
Okay.
Can you play the link from your email that we got from Caleb?
It's on the website, I think.
That's a different one.
I can certainly send it out. Yeah, it's 2.5 minutes animation. The upshot of the video is to sort of, it walks you through working backwards from how a battery in your vehicle ended up there. And what you'll see is a map of the world, and it draws a supply chain of how ore is taken out and all of the refining steps and where those refining steps are done. And the picture that we're trying to paint here is that we already have a very complicated supply chain to get these minerals into a vehicle. It involves many, many countries. None of them are really domestic in this process. There's one step that happens in Canada, but most of it's happening elsewhere. And so it's already very complicated today. There's already a tremendous amount of greenhouse gases that are expended just to get it into your vehicle here. That's about to get exacerbated with the IRA changes, which I think is on the next slide. I think it shows the timeline of those changes.
Oh, is it?
Yes, there's a progression you'll see with the Inflation Reduction Act of, as we move through 2029, where we can source those materials from. So we see our technology really helping to not only solve or to ease the supply chain burden that happens today, but what is soon to come. And as I mentioned earlier, there's 100,000 tons of nickel in this country unused today because it's just too expensive to get it out to the places that can recycle it with the processes that Christine spoke about today. We don't use either. We do a dissolution with acid in the very beginning of our process, and then we use water and electricity in the core technology to do it. I think that probably captures what was intended here. I think most folks here probably understand how prevalent lithium-ion batteries are in your everyday life. We're talking about the vehicles. It's in your phones. It's in consumer electronics. You can see in the periodic table, those are sort of the metals that we can target. It's rare earths, transition metals. Those are what our tech is really good at interacting with and separating. So yeah, this was really intended to show just sort of all the places that these minerals touch. I think we can go to the next one. So this leads us to end cycle. So it's sort of a two-phase mission here. It is immediately to impact recycling. Again, the materials that are already here domestically and bring them back into the economy so we can enable this circular economy as we do this transition. Then we will endeavor into the mining industry so that we can help them get better extraction of what they're pulling out of the earth. That's the intention. And then refining, there are a number of refining operations, and if you look at their flow sheet, maybe have a bleed stream where there's a metal that is still valuable that they don't know how to get out, and we think our technology can help them get it out. So we're starting with something that's very, very effective. People really understand with lithium-ion batteries, but we do have a roadmap of where we're going to go into the future. And that is what Burlington's all about. That facility is really about testing the applicability of this core technology, this electro-extraction technology to different feed streams. And the feed stream could be an ore. It could be these other refining bleed streams. It could be many things. Okay, does that all make sense? Let me see if I've missed anything here. Nope, I think that's good. The oyster. I smile because the oyster, it was a little bit of a forced code name. It has to do with, an oyster comes from, an oyster will basically recycle what's in the bottom of the ocean and create a pearl out of it, right? So we've coined our commercial system as the oyster. You'll see here, these are standard filter presses. The filter press is used to press water through a series of filters to extract it from sludge and other things like that. That is not how we're using our technology. Our technology is embedded in one of those cells, and we use the filter press to encapsulate a multiplicity of them. So our development is around a unit of 1 square meter, and then to get scale, we run a number of them in parallel with each other. And that's what Ohio will have. Ohio will have a filter press with anywhere between 116 and 142 of these cells. We're not quite done with the mechanical design of the commercial set. In Burlington, we'll have about 4 of these. We'll only have a maximum of 5 plates in each of them because that's really all we need. And then the idea of those is to test some longitudinal, pilot studies to ensure that our technology is applicable to whatever feed stream it is. We talk a lot about the savings that our technology can bring to all of these, all of these feed streams. We had a third party come in, a very well-known company come in and pour through all of our data and our mass balances, and they determined independently that our process is about 92% lower from a greenhouse gas emissions perspective than the operations, the pyro and the hydro operations that you heard about earlier. So we think there's still something to be spent to recycle, but it's not nearly the cost that we're incurring today to recycle these metals. That's one of the things we'd like to promote our company. Okay, I think the next one. Picture of scale. So to the left is the lab scale. That has been the kind of the workhorse through the early inception of the company to prove that the science works. And Megan likes to remind me that, well, the rest of it's just engineering, and that's yours to do, Chris, which is to get it to scale. And they have proven it in 2021 by scaling 10x, and now we are working on the 2022 scale. That is the size of the commercial cell. It's essentially a filter. You can think of it like a Brita filter, where we have taken the carbon filter that's in that Brita filter and applied a current to it, and that current that electricity will actually interact with the metals and filter only those out. That's sort of the mental model that we use to describe this technology. That is the first prototype at the 125x scale. We'll have probably 2 or 3 more before it's ready for prime time in Ohio, roughly Q4 of this year. That is what the hard work is that's going on in Beverly right now. As you get to this size, the things that are small challenges in the lab and pilot size are big challenges in this size. And it's just things like, flow rates are a lot larger than they would be at the smaller scale, and how do we deal with that? It ultimately boils down to a fluid dynamics problem that is entirely solvable. It's just we're in the process of actually doing that. So she's right. It is just engineering. It just takes a little bit of time to do it. What's next? So our timeline, I want to make sure I hit the right points here, because I will get in trouble if I do not. So if you expand to the left, 2017 is when we were founded. To the right, beyond this chart, would be, I was going to say about October timeframe is when we will be commercially in Ohio producing a mixed hydroxide product that is a nickel cobalt hydroxide product. We had patent in 2018, Bloomberg New Energy Pioneers Award. 2023 winners. That hasn't been publicized yet, but it is. We have been told about it. And then earlier this year, the Prince and Princess of Wales were in Greentown. We were one of the finalists to go and see them, and so our CEO and CFO were there, and they met the royalty. Yep. I was not allowed to go. I'm very sad about that, but at least we got some good pictures out of it and some good press. This brings us to Burlington. So that's the footprint of Burlington. The blue area is really the new area. So that is about 16, almost 17,000 square feet, and that will be the new lab. So that is to be built. That is work that Nordblom is doing for us, and we've designed that and architected it, and they're in the process of creating that space for us. The yellow bits are the office area, and that is unchanged from the way it was today. The way it is today, I should say. Below it is a wildly simplified 4-step explanation of our process. And we put it here just to sort of explain, what we would be doing in this space. We take the feed stream material and dissolve it just to the point where the target metals that we're looking to separate are dissolved, and then we filter out anything that's unwanted. So not everything obviously dissolves, and those things we filter out mechanically, and what we're left with is a solution that has the target metals dissolved in it, and then we run it through our electro extraction, our oyster, and we electrify it, and we turn that metal into a solid, and then we're able to mechanically filter that out. So what we're left with is this mixed hydroxide nickel cobalt solution in the case of the lithium ion battery. Okay. Next slide. Thank you, Susan. Just an aerial view of the space. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it. It's the old, I know it as the old Sun Microsystems building because that's the last time I was there, frankly. And I think Citrix was the last company that was in there. So that's the space that we're in. And again, only the third floor is what we're going to occupy. There's a tenant on the second floor, and I think 3 is empty at this point. Next slide. We had a wonderful message from Paul Sagarino that came to us about 2 weeks ago, very welcoming about the company coming into Burlington. We also had South Moulton visit us in Beverly to review it. Beverly, it's been a great space for us. We're just truly growing out of it. It isn't as ideal a place, frankly, as Burlington is. I mean, Beverly's very nice, but the amenities here are just off the charts. And frankly, from a recruiting perspective, we're looking to grow, as I mentioned to you. This is an ideal spot. It is right in the sweet spot of commuting for folks, and we know this is going to be an advantageous thing for us. And frankly, the space is allowing us to, for a while we were a little worried we'd have to separate some of the lab work from some of the office space, and this footprint is accommodating for all of it being integrated into one. And when you're that small, that's really important. Having half the team in the lab space and the business development folks being separate is completely not ideal, not at this stage of the company. So we feel very fortunate to have found a space like this in Burlington. And I personally have a very long commute, so I am very excited to get in there. Yes. Next slide. Just a picture of an offsite. I hope you see a happy team. I will let you drink in some of the ethos of our culture, but we're very much trying to do a good thing. We're also, I would say most of the culture of the folks who have joined are similar to Victoria and myself, and why we told you we joined. Everybody's trying to make an impact, and you can feel it. So we've tried to put it to words here. And I think that last slide is a picture of the lab. It's literally not much bigger than what you see there, so you can understand why we need to move. The blue piece of equipment you see in the middle there, that is a filter press. That's not a rendering, it's a real one. That is smaller than what will be in Burlington. The one in Burlington and in Ohio will be about twice that size, but you can now see kind of scale of what it looks like a little bit better. I think that was the last one, yes?
So,
that's all 14. Oh, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, as you can see, they are, Encycle is excited to come to Burlington. They are an innovative company. We have applied for 3 special permits before the planning board for lab research and development, hazardous materials, and waste, and we will be before the planning board at their May 4th hearing. As you know, with these type of companies, what the Board of Health has to say is very important to the planning board, so we look forward to answering any questions that the board may have. Thank you.
Questions?
Amazing. I think it's wonderful technology. I think it's just so interesting, and I love the fact that you're a force of good for the environment. That's really, I think, so important these days. The only question I would have is from a health perspective. Like, are the securities in place? I would assume they are. Like, is there any potential risk to the people that are in the office working next to the lab or people on the other floors? Has that all been taken care of?
I mean, they don't really have emissions issues.
Okay.
So, because everything's either aqueous or
Yeah, but I want to hear from them.
Okay.
I want to hear from them You know, I think it's a wonderful question, and I have about 10.
I'm happy to answer it.
50 questions. For instance, if you wouldn't mind me, 15.
Oh, okay, they said 50.
15 questions?
You know, about, we want, this board is the board which determines our response, the responsibility community for safety. And first of all, we're excited that you're coming here. We're really excited you're coming here. But you're the first technology of this type in this community. So we're going to put you under some scrutiny. Get it done once and that'll be it. And I think you hit it right on the button and that is, I have a lot of questions about safety. And is there any material, whether it be airborne or waterborne, that would have any impact in this community?
Well, let me start with, as we've investigated this space, we work really closely with Nordblom and some of their consultants. They've hired Code Red, as a for instance, to help us work through the fire and building codes. And as we've become exposed to all, we fully intend to adhere to every single regulation required. So let me just start straight up.
That's not the question.
But I think that was your question. And I wanted, starting there and getting to, the lab is separated from the office space, for starters, and there's a new HVAC system being installed on the roof to allow for more air changeovers in that lab space. So that's just that's just the beginning of the accommodation that we're making. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to, I didn't want to leave that hanging.
Your raw material.
Yep.
I mean, I'm going to.
Yeah, go.
Yeah.
Did you have anything?
No,
to add?
I got.
You want to know about black mass?
Most of all the material that may be dangerous or toxic to people who live and work in Burlington. Is there any of materials that would be dangerous or toxic to, let's say if it got spilled, to the people in that community, in our community?
Just to piggyback, I think it was a great presentation, but from our purview, it's what's the special permit for, what's the materials you're handling, what's the care you're putting around those materials, what's the hazardous materials you're bringing into this town and or disposing of at your facility. You didn't touch upon any of that in your presentation.
Yeah, so is there anything, for instance, let's start with one of my later questions. The raw material, how does it get shipped in?
It comes in bucket containers.
In buckets, and it's just brought in? What if any of that's spilled on the way in?
Well, it doesn't come if it spills. It's usually sent back. It usually doesn't show up if it's spilled. If there's been a problem in transit.
You're carrying it in, it breaks on the...
Oh, after we received it, you mean? Yeah. Do you want to talk about what we do for spills?
Yeah, so I'm the chemical hygiene officer at N-Cycle, and so I deal with all the planning around what's going on in terms of chemical spills at Beverly. So we have sort of chemical spill kits that are appropriate for, acids, bases. It's very different when it comes to black mass, though. It's not like airborne, I would say. If it were to spill, it's kind of easy. You can kind of wet it, pick it up, and then dispose of it. We don't dispose of anything that goes sort of like down the drain or anything. That is then taken by a sort of waste contractor, Veolia.
But is there anything airborne that is going to affect anybody in Burlington? That if it breaks some of the raw material?
No.
No.
Okay. Well, let me just say, I'm an amateur.
Like a volatile substance, that kind of thing? No.
Yeah. I'm an amateur geologist, spent many years crawling in and around mine tailing dumps all over the world looking for residual minerals and artifacts. And I'll be doing that next week in the Southwest. But so I know some of that stuff is kind of crazy stuff, and so this is not toxic, the raw material.
No, it's not considered toxic. It doesn't meet sort of the standards that we've looked as like hazardous material as being like arsenic, cadmium levels. It is not considered a toxic material.
What about your waste products?
So the waste products are actually all the stuff that comes out of the oysters. There's two main streams, as well as any work that's done in fume hoods or at the benchtop level. It's all contained in sort of they're carboys or in IBCs, which are the 250-gallon containers, and they're taken off site by Veolia.
Okay, and they're not toxic? How toxic is?
Some are, so they're considered, toxic is, I wouldn't say they're toxic, it's considered a hazard, some of it is considered a hazardous material because the pH level is -2, well,
where
below
does-
2, I mean.
Okay, so where does it go?
That goes to Veolia, and they deal with it off-site. Veolia is the,
It's like the waste, the waste
contractor.
waste contractor
Yeah, they're
that
a waste
takes away the
contractor.
waste. So nothing goes down the
I
drain.
submit to them sort of a waste profile. This is what we have coming out. There are certain check marks that they see. They check toxicity as well as corrosiveness, radioactivity, and if it meets certain limits, it's then considered a hazardous waste. Ours is only considered a hazardous waste because it is corrosive at a pH that is less than 2, and so then Veolia is the one that says, this is a hazardous waste, we will take it from you, you pay this price, and we will deal with it off-site.
Is any of it radioactive?
No.
You use the word, not me.
Oh, I would not work with radioactive materials.
Well, when-
I did a little bit of that in grad school.
Because I
after
come
dad.
across hornblende is pretty radioactive in some of those dumps. No? Okay.
No.
Okay. If there is a problem, are the fire departments, police departments notified?
Sorry, can you?
It says here under condition, release is reportable under the Massachusetts contingency plan. Must be also reported to the Board of Health within the same time frame. So you'll report any of those types of issues, correct?
Yeah, so does that mean in terms of, I'm only aware of like what's going on in Essex County. So we are a very small quantity generator in Essex County, and maybe this is not answering your question, but if we were to become a small quantity generator, you do have to sort of meet with the town of Beverly or the Essex County, and you have to also report and let the fire department know of what is going on in the lab. So if we are planning on becoming a small quantity generator, and that is something that we would be doing here as well.
Mr. Chairman, I just wanted to clear something up, because I was at the meeting earlier today, and you spoke, and I asked that question, whether or not, what kind of generator you were gonna be, and I was told it wasn't hazardous waste. So were you saying that the out product is a hazardous waste now, or is it not?
So there's two different things that are going on here. Like, there's the oyster that is, we're dealing specifically with black mass material. There's also R&D that's going on, which is what I do, that deals with a myriad of other different feedstocks. And that sort of material that, this is sort of like dissolutions and acids or bases that you're not supposed to treat once that is waste. And so then I put it in a carboy and I tell Veolia, this is our acid waste or this is our basic waste.
So you have two waste streams. One where you're a very small quantity generator, where you're dealing with acids and bases, and that's being taken away as a hazardous waste. And then they also have the waste product, the liquid that comes out of the oyster, which is the 275 gallons that he was referring
That's
to.
right. That's
that
right.
has a pH, issues with pH, but is not considered a hazardous waste,
Right.
but needs to be taken off because of the pH level of the out product.
Well,
And-
pH2, does that make it hazardous material?
Well, but what you're saying, there's two streams. From the lab scale materials, they might have stuff that is a hazardous waste because of its pH, but then from the oyster processing, they will have a liquid waste that is typically not a hazardous waste because it doesn't fail for corrosivity or it doesn't fail for metals content.
Will they have to fill out a hazardous material?
Manifest?
Manifest.
Yeah, for the first
Just one.
waste stream I just described.
And then the second one, my understanding is, they're not right now, but down the road, they may apply for an MWRA permit to neutralize that waste coming from the oyster and put it down the drain. And Nordblom would be going through Nordblom's neutralization system that they would maintain. But right now, they're not doing that, they're gonna have it shipped off-site.
Okay.
And they will have to fill out get a hazardous material permit or a hazardous storage permit basically though, just for the acids and
Yes.
bases,
Right.
not for the other liquid
Right,
material.
which we're building a
Not for the
room
waste.
specifically
Right,
for.
not for the
Storage
waste,
of the
just for the
acids.
storage
Just for
of
the
the
storage,
acids
that's
and
right.
bases. That they
Building a
use in
spec-
small quantities.
They're working
Right.
And their chemicals that they use in their testing.
Now,
As far as your question about the fire department, you wouldn't have to notify the fire department if you're a very small quantity generator. You get that designation through Mass DEP.
Right.
And then, you would put that, I think that's a question on our form, because we would want to know. But the fire department really wouldn't get involved in that. They would just be called, like, if you had a spill, so say you had a spill of your materials, and you called the fire department for that, we would want to be notified
Right.
in that same time.
Okay.
that's correct. And,
Yeah.
and that's where I'm going to say proposed condition number 6, that the Board of Health will be notified in addition to other regulatory agencies in cases of emergency.
Okay.
I'm going to add that 6. Do you need to get that? I'll read it one more. It's just boilerplate. The Board of Health will be notified in addition to other regulatory agencies, regulatory and emergency agencies in cases of emergency situations. I just want to add that. I've added that to many others, okay?
And do you have a health and safety plan or something
Yes,
as
we
well?
do.
I mean, maybe
Yeah,
that we
so-
could ask that,
That would
get
be-
that as
Yeah.
well, so that we could see,
Great.
yeah.
Yeah, we can get the spill, we talked about that, getting the spill plan when they submit their hazardous materials storage permit application, which they're going to
Maybe
do.
Specific, maybe we want to have just on file their specific health and safety plan.
Right.
Yeah.
They're going to submit it when they submit their permit application.
Just give them that.
Yeah, so I just wanted to be, like, the chemical hygiene plan, which, I can give you all of the plans that we have, and a lot of them overlap on one another. But, we were told to sort of, I guess, say what was sort of a spill that we cannot handle. And so we made that sort of, 4 liters, over 4 liters of a certain element. We do not have the capabilities at our lab or the equipment needed to handle that spill, and that is something that we would contact, the fire department, or we would contact Veolia to help handle that spill.
And that is not, though, referring to the black mass product, because if you spill that, that can be handled, it sounds like, is that correct? Because you're just talking about the acids and bases and liquid
Right.
spill, not the black mass, right?
The black mass is not toxic. But are you going to be harvesting palladium and gold? Do you need security? Do you have a security? I mean, you're going to be harvesting palladium and gold and silver.
Not in huge quantities,
That's a
though.
great question.
You mean for theft?
Yeah.
Well, somebody breaking in, a bottle of palladium.
I would say that yes, just because we do have some very expensive, flashy pieces of equipment that I
Okay.
don't even want
So
to.
do you have security?
I mean, it's the security of the building. We don't have a security company per se, and the lab is going to be key card, so only
Key
certain
card
folks can
access.
get
Okay.
I said, I'd be more worried about some of the equipment they could lift easier than the quantity we'd need to outweigh that, but great point.
Okay.
Don't tell anybody.
Palladium's expensive these days. Yeah.
You mentioned something about,
So it's protected.
It is key card and
Locked up.
protected, yeah.
mentions about lithium. Are you going to try to recycle the lithium? No.
Not at the outset, no. We don't, our tech doesn't really react very well with that, so we're planning to sell that.
Nothing does.
I know, yeah. There are some opportunities, one of our founders thinks we may have there, but it's down the road.
Okay. And I am totally satisfied. We have here 6 conditions. Have you seen them, Ms. Hung? Are they,
I have, yes,
are they okay with them?
they are.
I just added just a notification of Board of Health.
So I just have one quick question. What's our obligation with the people that take the waste away in the event of an emergency or a spillage?
So
Their
the,
responsibility. It's the.
Yeah, they have a whole, it's funny because I was just DOT certified for like shipping hazardous material or anything. And so it is our responsibility to attach, like if we're going to be shipping something or something is coming to us, to ask that person to include an SDS. I also asked for a certificate of analysis to get a better understanding, but the SDS is the most important one, and You also fill out a sort of an information that says, what do emergency responders do if this were to spill in a highway or in a tunnel or whatever. But that is also on the shipper as, responsibility, and then the transporter has sort of things that they can figure out how to deal with it.
But as a generator of hazardous waste, they retain the ultimate liability for any material that enters the environment. They own the liability from cradle to grave.
I just have one, just out of curiosity. Black Mass doesn't have an SDS, so how it...
Oh my God, you're speaking to all the troubles of my job.
Well, we have received one.
We have received a few from two different companies that sent black mass material to us. And I'm sure, as you know, there has been no sort of determination if this is considered a hazardous material by the federal government.
Right.
But yeah, sorry, continue.
I was just wondering how you would get around that issue when you're shipping or receiving that if it doesn't have an SDS.
We've been trying to also work with Uline as well as, there's another company.
You mean United Labs?
Yeah, sorry, UL.
United Labs, yeah.
United Labs sort of helped to create an SDS that sort of covers all the material that we're getting. It's just been kind of like a slow process, but they've definitely alluded to the fact that they are getting other companies that are having the same issue and getting an SDS for black mass.
Interesting. So we're trying to be proactive and generate one, so we just have one, right? And we have received a couple, so.
Are you a public company?
No, we're private, startup company. Yeah, very early stages. We're between Series A and Series B presently.
Okay, thanks. Any other
Chair,
questions?
no, I'll make a motion to approve the application for special permit for N-Cycle 15.
With the 6 conditions?
With the six,
With the
yes,
six,
with the sixth
yeah.
added condition.
Second.
I have a motion by Vice Chair David Sweeney, second by Ms. Mary Beth Welch. Any other questions? Then I'll put it to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0-0. Welcome to Burlington.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for your time and consideration, and thank you to Christine for all of her assistance and guidance, as usual. She's so good, but thank you, Christine.
You're welcome.
Answered all the questions right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, which now brings us to, I asked to place on there the Board of Health public participation policy in reference to citizens' time. As you remember, at the last Board of Health meeting, I thought I had all the information, whereas another board had discontinued citizens' time, and I've had two other meetings since, and I have a lot of other new information that will allow us to have citizens' time as long as we put policies in place. And I got to tell you that things have changed, and I just want to bring that up. We will have citizens' time, but I would like whoever's chairman to get somebody together and to talk about a policy that will work for citizens' time. We have to put a very basic policy in place to have it, which will involve time limits, pretty much time limits, and pretty much time limits. So, as well as, so I would like to just point that out. We will have, as long as I'm here, we will have citizens' time, and we'll just have to put a policy together. I don't think it'll take more than a half hour to meet on a subcommittee and just hash it out. It'll be no problem, based on the new information I got. We may have to go to town council just to check to make sure that our policy is approved, is okay, but other than that, things have changed significantly, and they continue to change with this situation, because we're not the only ones that are upset about it. Any comments?
Thank you. I do. I have a question. Why do we have to change it and have time limits on the citizens' time? Why do we have to have a policy?
But we have to have, according to everybody I've talked to, that you need a 5-minute policy in case somebody goes off on crazy tangents. Because if you're not, you can't stop that individual from speaking. And they've had situations, especially in planning board, where the person went on and on and on for a very long time. And they couldn't say, thank you very much for your input, we appreciate that. But we can put it on our next agenda, and you can speak on it, and then they would have it. But when it comes to citizens' time, we should have a time limit, just in case.
Time limit per person or time limit
person.
overall?
Per person. So if somebody comes on, wants to talk about something, and then goes off on a crazy tangent, you got to give them 5 minutes. That's
Because
fine.
otherwise they're hogging all of the citizens'
They
time.
could go on for hours.
Okay.
But this way, we give them 5 minutes, and then they can say, then we could ask them, we would like to put that on
It
our
might
next agenda.
justify it. It could justify being an agenda item later.
Agenda, I don't, but I'm not going there until we put together
Okay.
something basic. And I would, I know that Amy Warfield is very happy to work with us.
I think it goes back to controlling the citizen. It's citizens' time. So if you're stating, again, we have to have a policy and change it, I think as a board, we should make a decision if we have to change the policy. I think that's what we were asking in the last meeting, to talk to as a board, not to just change it, but to talk about it and have the discussion as a board if we should make any changes or keep citizen time as it's been.
Is there a current citizens' time policy for our board?
No, not for time limit. I know that the selectmen are working towards a 5-minute policy. I know that other boards are
So is
doing
that something they decided was doable time for the citizen? Like, they've decided that they only want a 5-minute time? Could it be
Well,
10 minutes, or is it?
We could pick an hour if we want.
Okay, so,
But that's why I'm just calling for a subcommittee to.
no, I was just curious as to, like, when you said you spoke to other people, if that was like a recommendation by the town,
I know
by,
that selectmen are talking about 5 minutes. Because we might have 5 or 6 or 7 people who want to speak. But if you don't have something, that does not mean if they bring up something that's very important, that we can say, let's put that on as an agenda item at the next meeting. And then we go on forever.
And I do think, as we spoke in the last meeting, what each board does is what pertains to that board.
That's correct.
And I too spoke to plenty different board members since our previous meeting, and not each board is even having a discussion yet.
Well, I'd like to know who you
So
spoke to.
I think,
my husband's on a board, I asked him if they changed, and he said
Yeah,
no, he hadn't
I
heard of it. My husband is on a board.
It was stated in last meeting that every board has changed.
No,
and
I didn't
has-
say that. I said some boards have changed. For instance, selectmen are in the process of changing. As you read in the backup materials, the planning board has changed. I don't know what school committee is doing yet, but
I think it was stated that all the other boards are changing. That they're removing citizens' time.
Well, that was-
Never mind changing, but removing.
That
So
was what was told to me.
I think it needs to be a board discussion if we need to change citizens' time.
I agree.
Okay, thank you.
I
appreciate
agree.
that.
And I will tell you that I agree. I said that last time. I agree. I think it should be a board decision.
I think there is a reason that there's a 5-member board that's elective, and I think that's that reason right there. We all are entitled to, we're all very, as you said, we bring a lot to the table. It's a 5-member board. We all bring much expertise in our professional and our personal to the board, and I think that the citizens, the town residents voted for 5-member board. It's a discussion that should happen with the 5-member board, and I'm glad that we're all here this evening. If it can't happen tonight, more than happy that we, put it on another agenda.
I think that we need someone to propose something as a topic, to propose something and then bring it to the board as a proposal. I just think that's, according to, as we heard tonight, when it comes to making the decisions in front of town meeting, It's all up to the moderator. He decides. And according to Amy Warfield, it's not a board decision, it's a chairman's decision, and I'll tell you, I'm not making that decision. It should be a board decision. As I said last time, we put it off.
But isn't the request that we're discussing tonight whether we should make a change? Because you've said that some boards have decided to make changes. Not all, some. So it sounds to me like we do not need to make a change if the board of 5 of us agreed we did not need to make a change. Now, that might not be, I mean, just correct me, is that what I'm hearing?
What you're hearing is I have made the decision. It will be a board decision. It'll be a board decision, simple as that, whether we change it or not. What we're protecting against is what is going on in planning, I think it was planning board. Is there people from outside this community who get on and then ramble and ramble and ramble and say some pretty bad things? What we're saying is, sure, you can get on, you want to ramble, go ahead. But at the end of 5 minutes, we can say to them, listen, you've had your 5 minutes, we will put this issue on our next agenda. So we can give them a time limit. I don't care. If you want to leave it, this is a
No, I
protection.
just wanted to be clear on what we're discussing it, because I think it's important. If the town was saying we need to do this, but some boards are choosing to do nothing, so, and that's their prerogative. So I just want to make sure that this is a choice that we need to discuss.
Well, we have had issues with people getting here in citizens' time and ramble and ramble and ramble. I don't have any problem with that at all. My problem is we need to protect this community from people going on and doing bad things during citizens' time. All we'll say to them is, you have 5 minutes, tell us what you want. And I can't imagine someone not presenting during citizens' time what they would like to present at 5 or 10 minutes. And then if it gets bad, or if it requires, we'll put it on as a full agenda item. Simple as that. It sounds appropriate to me, but I'm not going to defend. It's your decision. Anybody else?
I was more concerned about eliminating totally an avenue or a venue for citizens to come and interact with the Board of Health on an item that's not on the agenda. So I'm happy to hear that that's not the direction. As far as if we want to put structure around citizens' time, and I'm not sure what that even means. I mean, I guess I would need to understand what we want to do, what we're trying to achieve with it. I mean, I'm open to ideas or suggestions as putting some structure around it, but I do think, if the chair wants to have a subcommittee around citizens' time and that the subcommittee meets and they make a recommendation of we change it or don't change it or here's where we want to change it, I think that's fair. But I'm glad to see that we're not eliminating citizen time. If there's thoughts around structure or policies we want to put in place for the 0.01% of an opportunity that something might go awry, I mean, I guess I'm open to it. I just don't. I think we thought there was an issue and we were trying to address it. We don't necessarily think there's an issue anymore. I'm not sure we need to address it anymore, but I'm open to hearing thoughts around if we do need to address some points.
So what I'm hearing tonight is just leave it alone and we'll move on. Is that what I'm hearing tonight?
Well, I think I'm open to the thought. I mean, I was eliminating citizen time as a total line item was not something I was supportive of, but again, I'm open to listening to thoughts on changing it. But I think we thought last week or 2 weeks ago when I was in here, we thought that there was a bigger issue, that there was more of a mandate coming.
Yeah.
And if that's not the case, then I'm not sure that we need to make a mountain at this point in time out of it. But I'm open to being proactive in making some changes that protect us. I use that term loosely, but protect us from potential whatever might happen.
So I'm open to any suggestion. I just thought.
And we do. I think we have a caller if you wanted to take.
Oh, there's a hand.
Yeah, there's a hand.
Yes. Yeah.
Talk to the hand.
Yes.
Talk to the hand.
I have a question.
Who are you, please state your name.
I'm a Burlington resident, and I just want to say I'm really happy that you're reconsidering Citizens Time and having it. I've never used it before, but really appreciate the ability to and having that avenue. I think if we need to add time policies, that sounds fine with me, and 5 or 10 minutes seems perfectly reasonable, but I'm really glad that you're keeping it because I really value that ability to speak if I should want to.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, thank you very much. Your name, please?
Erin Sedia.
Erin.
It's the, part of our board.
Erin?
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for calling in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for calling in. So,
I think having citizens' time is important because we are for the people. But
No, I think we left the last meeting.
second or
Yeah, that's why it's on
And
still.
that's why I say, I agree. You know, when we left last week, it didn't seem
it
like,
seems like it was canceled, and that was on my list of
Yeah,
questions.
that was,
Because I
I met with a number of people, and then I went back based on the discussion here, and said, well, we'll go back and revisit this. It's time consuming, you know, and I did, and found out, well, wait a second, this thing is evolving. This thing is
Okay,
evolving.
So maybe we jumped the gun last meeting.
We did, you heard my,
Lack of better word.
yeah, mea culpa. I did, based on discussion with a number of people in this, and it's not that, this week was different. This week was different than it was last week. I'm the first one to tell you. As I said in my chairman's report, thank you for not jumping the gun. Thank you, and I did, but it's complicated. The Supreme Court has made it complicated. I can leave it if you want, I'm just trying to protect the board.
I understand.
Okay.
I mean, I think it's the chair's prerogative to make a subcommittee. It is. So
And if the subcommittee says, the group says, 2 people, and I don't need to be on that subcommittee, says just leave it, that's fine with me. You know, I just need 2 volunteers.
I'll volunteer if it can happen after 5.
Beautiful, beautiful, got 1. Is anybody else? Do it after 5. We can.
Yeah, I just can't do it during the day.
I can work with you, or if the 3 of us want to work on it.
Can't be.
Can't be
Oh, okay,
because
that's right.
that's
Then we have
that's
to
a
quorum, never
No, I
mind.
think it's great.
If
know
you
what?
want to.
No, I think it should be you and Andrea. I think it's
You and
wonderful.
Andrea, why don't you and Andrea talk about,
Yeah.
and if you want to leave it, that's fine, come back to the next meeting.
We'll have to take.
You have to
meeting
post it and
minutes,
everything, yeah.
post it, so
Sure.
if you want to decide
For
on a
the
time.
2 of us?
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Okay.
somebody,
You'd have staff.
myself, or
So
somebody has to take minutes.
and I think this is actually a good idea, I really do, but I want to make sure, like, and listen,
Do I
I'm
know
not
what I'm signing up
babysitting.
for?
No, I know, right, I'm not babysitting, but I just want to make sure you guys are getting together to solve a potential problem, right? And I don't know if there's a problem that's defined, and I guess maybe it's that.
I think it's,
Document.
it sounds like to me, there's concern about
Yes.
having citizens' time, open time, without any perimeters or some sort of structure where the board could say, this is getting a little out of control, this is off topic, this is going in a different direction than what we thought. Could we put it on as a line item for the next
correct.
meeting, is what I'm hearing.
But citizens' time, they can talk about anything they want.
And that's fine.
That's
I
fine.
think we're not trying to
Control the content.
control the conversation or censor any topic. It's more about, we only have a certain amount of time for our meeting.
Right, but don't
Is what
forget,
I'm
somebody
hearing.
could come to Citizens Time and start reciting the Gettysburg Address, right? And I'm not saying we don't allow that to happen or what have you,
Correct.
but they could go on for 3 hours citing the Gettysburg Address. I'm being
But that's
I'm being egregious, right, or exaggerating.
monopolizing our meeting
Right,
time, so that's not
how do,
appropriate.
I think that's what the fear is, and how do we
Correct.
That's the
solve that
only
problem?
thing I wanted to bring up. That's the only thing now, based on all of these multiple meetings I've been to, is maybe you want to put 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, so they don't recite the Gettysburg Address, because once they get on, according to the SJC, you can't stop them. So, but
Well,
you
that's
got
their right to.
And what's that?
No,
That's their right
Got her
to
hand raised.
speak. No, but that's their,
I understand what David's saying, though, because it's now seemed to be getting into an opinion.
Correct.
Okay, I think you should put 5 minutes on, I don't think you should put any time on.
Right.
So what should be discussed at a subcommittee meeting, other than what your opinion is?
Yeah, exactly.
You go ahead. So you two.
That's okay.
But I mean, it's
That's
just,
why there's a five-person board, that's okay.
but you could just, you all, probably have an opinion, or do you need more information about it?
It might be-
To form an opinion,
And
that's
I
my
think that's what my question was to you before I said the Gettysburg Address thing. Like, is there
Right,
is there
that's what- I
a
think that's what
problem
you were
statement that
getting
we
at.
can solve for?
And what, so what are we trying to do, basically, at the subcommittee? You wanna, I mean, does the subcommittee gonna work on getting information from somebody else? Maybe some other boards, to maybe, getting information from town council, or something that will inform your decision on what, or do you just, this is your opinion, or is it just, this is my opinion, there's nothing to inform it? So I just don't know what the work would be at the subcommittee meeting, and I think that's a good point.
And maybe you should invite
You just said it better than I did.
another person. For instance, the subcommittee could just decide to invite Amy Woolfield to a meeting and let her explain, that's possible.
So you had met with a couple of people. Is there anybody, aside from Amy, that shared with you details that made you change your mind that it could be like a 5-minute?
Like I did talk to.
Amy and-
I did talk to Nick Priest.
Nick?
And he went to Amy, I went to Amy. I've also spoken to whatever, you could call it whomever you want.
Yeah, no, I would just want to, something in the course.
Have the discussion yet for the two members that I spoke to, the chair and the incoming newly elected.
Which group? So Gail, maybe we just set up a meeting with Amy
And I also
kind of
spoke to
review the
other
facts.
I
members.
think, but also the planning board, and correct me if I'm wrong here, the way I read it,
Situation.
they won't even have public opinion even for an agenda item. That's the way I read it.
Well,
There's-
they've had an issue,
Yeah, so I think what they did was they got rid of the citizens' time, right?
Well, they got rid of citizen signs, but I think they got rid of citizen involvement.
Citizen, yeah, comments, they don't have to allow it, they don't have to allow, yeah.
I don't know if I like that though, you know?
Yeah, and so what happens if?
And I get they have had bigger issues than certainly we have had, but it's,
We've not had any
we
issues.
haven't.
That's what you said.
Well, as long as you've been here, have you had?
You said 35 years you've been on the board, you've
Yeah.
never had to deal with anything like
Just
that.
squeaked out 1 year.
Right, but we're pretty proactive with stuff, so if there's something that we can solve for
Yeah.
to prevent something from happening down the road, I think we should.
That's all I'm saying.
I think it's a good idea to address.
But I think if you two decide, you should not decide.
I mean, I just did not speak to other boards, and I know you said it takes time consuming out of your day to reach out to members or members, but I've had members in the community reach out to me from the last meeting as well. And so, that's who we're here for. So
I'm sure they're very responsible people. It's just, one of the other boards have had issues.
I can't tell you where I was, so if they're really sponsored, I'm kidding. I agree with you, but we, as you said, Susan, it can be an opinion, right? So, and that's why maybe bringing it back to the board and having discussion and a vote, so.
Yeah,
that's
so
what-
I guess that's what needs to be decided.
What do we
Gonna do
solve
the
it?
subcommittee, and if so, what is the directives of the subcommittee? What is the subcommittee going to be doing? And if not, then, okay, is it gonna go to?
And when you talk about timing, we don't know what we're going to experience or what's coming in front of us in
Can't
citizen
predict
time.
the future.
And if we put a time limit for something that requires 25 minutes or 10, there we
think-
go against what the citizens.
I do think though, if the way that the new law is written, that we lose control of our meeting and have no way to stop it, like, we should probably try to protect that, right?
But we.
Maybe it's an hour.
Well, we have, yeah,
I mean, I
that's
don't know,
actually
but,
a good point, because it usually isn't kind of somewhat open like that. An hour's a long time, but I agree. I mean, right now, we don't have any protection, right? Anyways.
Well, if
And citizen, we shouldn't. It's open,
Well,
an
we did
open
have
time.
protection until 2
We did
weeks
have
ago.
protection because we could have closed the
We
meeting, we
closed
could
it.
have moved the meeting.
Exactly.
We could have,
Exactly.
we don't
Well,
have protection anymore, as simple as
Because
that.
it's going against the law.
And I'm not afraid of it, like, it's probably, like I said, it's that 0.001 potential percent.
We could have that in an agenda item. We can try to control it. We can
Right.
ask them to leave, or if it's that, let's be honest, if we're in that position that some boards have experienced, you're gonna get up and leave a board. You're not going to
No, I
subject
agree with, and
yourself.
we could do that, but what happened is that now you're holding against their First Amendment right,
Exactly.
and they sued the board in that
Exactly.
town and they won, right? So that's, so we don't have an avenue to today. And again, I'm not afraid of it, like, I'm not saying it's gonna happen. Like, we work well with the community and, you know, I think we're pretty well respected within the community. I don't think it's gonna happen, but I just think if there's something that we can do to prevent or give us the leverage to stop something that's going bad pretty fast, I don't think there's any harm in doing it.
Apparently,
Can I just, I'm just thinking of context, so I know, just thinking back to when it could have gotten out of control, it would have been COVID and the mask
Right.
mandate.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I don't remember if you were here or not, Gail.
I was not, but I
think
watched.
Wayne was here, but whoever was the chairperson did say to them, you know,
How to conduct
give them
yourself.
limits and
Right.
control it a little bit and allow so many people to
Right.
talk. There was a lot of people wanting to talk that could have talked for a really long time. So if you're going to, I think, you know, maybe looking at it from that perspective, if you ran into that, did you want to sit here for 10 hours and listen to everybody talk? And maybe, you know, they might be talking about, say, political issues.
Right.
You know, how are you going to,
And there were some comments that were borderline
Yeah.
rude.
and I think
And
it
we've
was
had that in
stopped.
agenda
It was
items.
stopped.
We've had that in agenda items too. I know it's different in agenda item, but we've had that. And so you said a big important thing, David. We're a pretty, from what I've heard so far in the comments, we're a pretty respected board. We work well together and
But I don't think,
we come up with,
but maybe, I'm just, my point is in that situation, you know, now you are, you know, because everything is nice
You
and
could have had
fine.
5,000 people
But, you know, if
making
you have
comments.
something that is
they weren't
not,
coming. They
I set
No, for the-
I set limits. I can't set limits anymore.
Has there ever been a time where someone came for citizens' time and a citizen time was used up and that person had to come back the next meeting?
No.
Like, there's
No,
never
not
that.
not since I've been on the board
But
yet.
during COVID, we did
Have
have
a lot of.
hundreds of people dialed in. Everybody wanted to make the same comments. Some of them were getting rude, and the
Yeah.
chairperson, Dr. Saltzman at the time, I
No,
think,
it was me.
you?
I limited
Limited the number of people, limited if there was the same comment, we didn't need to hear it again, like if they didn't have anything else additional to add.
I mean, Andrew, you
Something
would take
different.
Control it
But there's
anymore.
no, yeah.
If 500 people show up and
I
they all
could
want to make
limit
a
that
comment,
now.
you have to listen.
I limited that.
Right.
Get limited.
If we have another COVID situation, let's say,
Right.
right? So.
So decide, you know.
Well, I think it would be a good step for us.
Exercise.
Yeah, it really would.
Yeah.
So, and
There you go.
again.
I'm excited.
Me too.
yeah.
I'm excited
What
that
do you
you two
think?
were on the subcommittee together.
I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, me too.
I think it's wonderful.
It's good.
You know,
What?
I'm sorry.
Come on, Susan.
I'm just trying to go
kidding.
back to those directives.
Yeah,
I took note of it.
I want to know what they
All
are.
right, subcommittee
I took note.
directives.
Okay, so what,
When the committee meets, we'll give you what the directives are gonna
so
be.
you're anticipating more than one meeting?
Seriously, I don't know.
I do think it's.
I understand what we're trying to
That's what
do.
it's probably-
can, as many as they want.
But you're gonna outrun it, right?
Not yet, rush.
Yeah.
Not in a
I-
rush,
and
it's on the
I'll- Yeah, and we'll try to bring back something to.
That's a good example, though, the COVID situation, that's a good example that we probably, like, if we had 500 people show up and we had no ability to stop 500 people from making
I mean, I
comments,
get that,
Not that we don't
but under
want to hear
normal
the comments, but
circumstances.
it could have been.
It's the first time I saw someone here in Citizens Time in 10 years.
Also during COVID, you know.
Kidding, except today.
Maybe not so much in this state, but in other states, boards of health were really insulted
Yes.
and, you know, feared for themselves over people's comments, so.
I mean, we've had
Well, that
emails
could
or
still
phone
happen.
calls during that,
Yeah.
right?
And
That we've
I don't think
had-
that was in Massachusetts, but I've heard a lot about that, and boards basically feeling afraid for themselves.
Well, the issue of the person who really caused problems for one of the boards in town was not from the state. So citizens' time is not doesn't mean
Doesn't mean resident time.
resident.
Right.
Well, maybe that's one of the rules, right? I don't know.
I
But
don't know. I don't
is
like
there,
that.
I guess,
But that's open meeting law.
yeah, it is.
It's open
It is.
anyway.
And we have landowners and restaurant owners that don't live in this community.
That don't live here, so you can't restrict it in that manner.
Yeah, that's true. I agree.
Okay, that's good. Report back whenever you want.
Did you say whenever you want?
Whenever.
Well, before your term's up, Andrea.
Whenever you can.
No, but I mean, I'm thinking, like, I'm not
until
next
then,
week,
we
but,
will-
you know, reasonable time frame. This is not that.
Let's let them decide. Let them decide, and I'll.
So,
Hurry.
I'm not the chairperson here, but so can we put a time limit, like define it, like?
No.
Wait, a
Next
time
few
limit for the
weeks.
subcommittee?
No,
Oh,
put a time limit around what we're trying to achieve, what we're defining. And it's probably gonna sit more with you then, and then, you know, how many, it's probably gonna
How
take.
about we put
Yeah.
a goal
Yeah.
4 weeks from today, or the next,
Yeah.
you know, target date. Gail and I will meet,
By the
and
end
if,
of May.
in fact, we find that, oh my God, we really need more time, we'll come back and let you know.
Okay.
But I think that
But you have.
whatever we have decided, is that,
I just want to reiterate, it's got to be posted, you
Yeah.
know, meeting minutes taken.
you could,
Yeah.
I'll set up, do we have to post an initial meeting for review with you,
I have to
Yes.
post
Yes.
2 days ahead
Yes,
of time.
yes.
if we're gonna meet?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll talk to you. I'll give you a call, and then we can talk about a date that works
Okay.
for the three of us.
Okay, we all set?
I love it.
Love it.
Yeah,
I
me
love it.
too.
Love it. Reorganization of the Board of Health. This is the time of year, it's after the election. We need to reorganize. Do I have any nominations for chairman?
I don't know if I have a nomination, but I do have a question.
Sure.
And it might be just because I'm a little new, but other boards that I'm just aware of other boards taking turns with chairmen, and I don't know what the protocol is.
Well,
It
it's
seems-
not been on this board where we can do whatever we want.
So that's
Dr.
the reason
Saul's-
why, that's the reason why we vote on it every year, is because a lot of boards, not every board, a lot of boards change chairperson and vice chair every year.
Okay, I didn't know if that was a normal
However,
protocol.
there, you know, because Ed's done a great job, and before him was Dr. Saltzman.
Who did 8 years.
He did a number of years too.
Together.
Nobody else wanted to take on
Okay.
chairmanship, being chairperson.
Right.
So that's why
Okay.
it's continuing on this.
I was
But
just-
that's the
I'm
reason
just
why there's a
curious
vote
and
every year.
getting a better
Yeah.
understanding.
No, good question, good question. Do I have a nomination?
So I am 100% proponent, kind of to segue from your question, that I do think it's good for a board to change chairperson and vice chair regularly. I think it brings fresh perspective. It keeps people motivated, and viewpoints are changed. That being said, I do commend Ed for the job he's done over the last several years. I personally don't have the time to put into it, and I'm not the type of person that does things halfway. To be a chairperson, I would love to do it sometime. I just, and my travel schedule is not getting any better. So with that all said, Ed, you do a commendable job. You're dedicated, and I will nominate you to be chairperson if nobody else wants to give it a shot.
Yeah. It's a lot of time, but please, is someone else willing to do it?
I second the recommendation for Ed.
But I'm willing to,
No, I mean, unless there's someone else that wants to.
I don't have the
feel,
extra time either, to be honest. I went back to
Mary
work
Beth?
after I joined.
Thank you. Thanks for considering all of us.
Senator Mary Beth, no? Okay. I mean, I'll do it. It just takes a long time, but I understand what you just
I
said.
feel that I can't take that on right now, myself.
And I also think one thing to add what you were saying, David, the other boards do. I mean, we watch it. We're very familiar with other boards. They do make that change. I also think even being a 10-year, going into my 4th term, I learned.
that long?
Yes, thanks,
Wow.
Ed. but I was young. But and Gail, I think I've talked a little bit about this with you, or maybe even Andrea. It does take, when some folks, I feel, when they're running for re-election, if they've been on a board for a term, it's years of service sometimes to really, to either make a difference or to really understand. So, I say that for myself. I'm still learning. But, so it does require sometimes a little bit more years of service to be seasoned in that area. I do believe in what I said earlier, there's a 5-member board, and we're voted, and our voices are very important, and that's what people vote for. And actually, I'm thankful that people gave, even though I'm running unopposed, was, but you know what? Them putting that vote in, it allows me to feel that,
Valued.
we're
Well, you are
valued,
valued.
or wanted, and hopefully we'll all do what we continue to
Would
do in
you
this board.
consider being?
No, sorry.
Okay.
No, I was
just
trying-
asking,
No, and
I
I
don't
think
know.
it's great, and I think,
Okay.
I really
I'll second.
appreciate David saying that, that there, that opportunity is for all of us. I do think, the commitment, and I'm still learning too, but even for 10 years. But
And
the
I'm
commitment,
happy to, will you be,
No, thank you.
No.
I'm,
But thank you, and you know what?
I just,
Continue on.
okay, I'll continue.
We just need
I
to
think
make a
it's
vote,
good.
right? We do have
So
a second, and
I'll-
we're good.
Did
I
someone
just
say-
feel bad for Susan that she has to put up with you for another year.
I have to put up with Susan, the phone calls. And.
It's not just Susan.
Oh, Christine.
Just kidding, I'm just kidding.
All right. Did someone second that?
Yeah.
That was good.
I second.
So I have a nomination for me, so I guess, all in favor?
Aye.
Can I vote no?
No.
All right,
After all that.
so I need a nomination now for vice chair. Would someone be interested in being vice chair? I know that you have had it.
Listen, again, I am,
I like to.
David does a great job. I'll nominate David.
I am happy to step aside. I think it's a,
I will second David. You guys are stuck with each other.
All in favor?
Aye.
now you gotta feel bad with me. I gotta put up with you for another year.
Are you sure you want to do it? No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Listen, I'm happy to do it, but I'm also,
kidding.
like I said, I think it's great to
It's a
spread.
re-election year for you too next.
It is an election
Oh,
year.
that's right.
No, I said it's an election year. I didn't say it was an election year for me. I just said it's an election year.
All right, so we're reorganized.
And Andrea, we're both on this.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Okay.
Well, we just got into the new year. We have a
I
little
know, we
bit of
just
time.
spent 2 weeks.
Let me enjoy
Like, I'm rushing my life ahead here.
my new position.
Well, wait, did you see the buzz this week? Oh,
Yeah, right.
calling for,
Oh, was Erin was the woman that
Yep.
sent the note in the email?
She
Oh, okay. Oh,
spoke
awesome.
about.
yeah.
Is she still on? I
Okay,
really
was
appreciated the note.
confused where
Yeah,
the
I
email
did too.
came from.
Aaron, thank you.
Thanks, Erin.
Thanks, Aaron.
Okay.
Oh, that makes sense, okay.
Okay, staff reports. Environmental engineer.
I just wanted to remind everybody that Household Hazardous Waste event is on June 3rd for our spring event, and reemphasize that it is going to be at the Fox Hill Elementary School, at the end of Fox Hill Road there, and not at the Francis Wyman Elementary School for this event.
Has it been at Francis Wyman for 30 years, or is it?
No, I think Susan said she did it at the middle school.
High school at, the middle school,
The
remember?
middle? Really? I thought it was
Marshall
the high school.
Simons?
No.
Yeah.
Marshall Simons, yeah, we did it, when I started,
really?
we were doing it there.
Oh, I vaguely
Queued it
remember.
up for
Yeah,
two.
right, I
that was
vaguely
when
remember
your
that.
dad was-
Yeah, right, exactly.
Queued it up 2 lines there, you remember that? Ed?
Yeah.
I want to know how you're going to queue up 2 lines at Fox Hill.
Did you?
Oh, well, we have to really look at that.
Go all the way around the school.
Yeah, there's a access,
Path.
Yeah.
there's a loop road that goes all the way around the school.
It's not great.
Yeah,
It's a single lane, though.
I know.
We're gonna really, well, yeah.
It's,
we'll-
I,
Gotta be able to divert the
we
traffic.
Could go this
no,
way.
but I drove it, and it's pretty long.
Well, if you go in the other way of the parking lot, you could, take a wide loop and do your batteries first and maybe make this.
Yeah, we may, do the loop road, we may do the loop road and then come around and do like one and a half snakes in the parking lot. The parking lot's not just deep, it isn't deep enough to do a lot of bends, but that loop road is big. And then,
It goes up
But they
the
got a lot of stuff on the side, and then you go right into the playground equipment. So
Yeah.
it's got some
I just-
limitations.
The good news is though, is that, I think it won't be as big of a deal.
It won't have
to
traffic
go
in the
with
street,
this
probably
traffic
much,
lined
yeah.
up there as opposed to a busy.
On Francis Wyman.
Like the middle school.
Yeah, like the
I think
neighbor.
when we had it at the middle school, that we were always nervous about
Oh, the
Wind Street.
traffic.
Oh,
And
yeah.
traffic on Wind Street.
well, even,
And there's no fields, right? There's really,
no.
other than the playground.
There are no
there's
fields.
no fields,
So we won't have random soccer
You got
people
it.
showing up and.
Is the time still the same though?
Everything's the same except the location.
Okay.
Same vendors, same time,
Okay.
just the location has changed for this particular event.
Have you let DPW know?
Yes, everybody's been notified, all relevant departments have been notified. I secured the school. I talked to the principal. He's very excited to have it at his school.
Good.
Yeah.
Great.
Is there any other questions?
No.
Not going to have a motion to
Just
approve.
a comment, actually. It's thaw in rainy season and sump pump season.
Is that what it's called
Just
now?
don't,
Sump pump season.
just don't.
I know. So just a reminder, if anybody's watching, that we do have policies and regulations around discharge of sump pump into the streets, or into catch basins directly, or down your driveway. And if you have questions or want to understand it better, please contact the office.
Yep. Thanks.
Well,
Now, motion to approve the environmental engineer's report.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Did you get that? Okay. Associate Director of Public Health, do you have anything you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to highlight, I did complete the Matter of Balance training. We had one class go through with 5 members of our BVRC. We want to start hosting classes for that. It takes 2 instructors, 1 hour a week, up to 8 weeks. For our senior citizens, we'll hold a class at the Council on Aging. We just submitted the roster for the second 5. Deb Sullivan, the trainer from Leahy's, been very accommodating. So hopefully we can do that round, maybe even get a 3rd class of coaches trained up. So we'll have quite a cadre to choose from when we have to start filling training slots for those classes.
By any chance, did you have any of the lists of the former trainers? Because we trained a bunch of people.
We did reach out to them, and there has been a few changes with the curriculum, mostly the resources.
They had to take that class again?
A few did, but some, I think it was a lot of fresh blood. New people wanted to step up and do it, so it's been good.
I was trained, but things have changed clearly, so. Any other questions for, if not, do I have a motion to approve the Associate Director of Public Health?
Motion to approve.
I have a motion by Andrea, second by David, all in favor?
Aye.
Director of Public Health, so we have the Associate Health Inspector, and do we have any questions about her report? Samantha Hardy? Okay. The second one is the Health Agent, Marlene Johnson. Do we have any questions on her? I just want to note that, to congratulate her, she did a terrific job. I know I mentioned this last, but there was a lot of work post-program. She did a Serve Safe program for 16 people, and she did a wonderful job. And so, any other questions? There was also an issue about residential cottage kitchen issue. Should we save that for her?
Yeah, I'm not sure, I think somebody was inquiring about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Which we do, you can have a residential cottage kitchen under the food code, I think we have 1 or 2, and we do permanent.
They have, But I think the issue was they were trying to sell their goods at a store.
Oh, yeah, you cannot do that. Yeah. Yeah, I think she cleared that up, and, you know, you can't sell it like whole food.
Yeah.
Where is Rocco's Donuts and Joey's Cannolis open up? Because I'm excited.
Are they coming with?
I don't know, that's what it looks like, I just saw that.
I don't
Okay.
have any questions.
Okay, and then the last is the director. Do you have anything?
I can just provide an update, I guess, on the shared services things going on. So we did interviews with Lexington and Wilmington. So we have hired 4 people. And we've got offers. So we have a epidemiologist, a community health worker, a nurse, and
Health agent.
Yeah, health inspector. All starting towards the end of May. The room has been completed, so the electricity is in, it's empty out. We're just waiting out for the furniture and to get the desks in there, so I'm hoping to get it done so that by the end of May, so when they get here, they'll have a place to work. And I'm meeting tomorrow with DPH, with Lexington and Wilmington, on the capacity assessment survey, that and all the surveys that they sent out that everybody took and all the documents we all had to provide. They're gonna give us the feedback on that. And then after that, I have to work on the fiscal year '24 work plan to kind of, get their feedback first, then do the work plan for next fiscal year on what we're gonna work on. So I'll make sure the next time we meet, you get the results of that and you know, like, at least what came back as the capacity assessment. The capacity assessment is not just on Burlington, it's on the region. So it's on the 3 cities and towns. So if we're really weak and, we might score an 84. So, one city or town might be strong in that, but one might be really weak, so they score.
And that will help allocate where so-and-so's working X amount of hours or whatever?
No, it doesn't. So it's supposed to allocate where you're supposed to focus those shared services people on, not in what community, because it's supposed to be shared.
I see.
So, yeah.
What's the inspector gonna be doing?
So one of the things that, so Wilmington has bathing beaches. They only have one inspector. One of the things they wanted to work on was to go and get trained on taking samples for the bathing beach. So that's one of the things they're gonna do. Wilmington also may need, Lexington said they needed for temporary food events. They need assistance with that. They get the big Patriots, or I don't know, they got the big celebration coming up for so many years as a town.
Yeah.
They're doing a lot of events, a lot of temporary food events, so they want to get the inspector to do those types of things. So we'll be assisting with training. As far as food goes, we're probably not going to need a whole lot of food because, unless something came up where we had a big event, a temporary food event, we needed to go out. But those types of things, inspector will be doing the training there. Mainly when we first talked about it, it was Lexington and Wilmington that really wanted the inspector.
Okay.
Be nice for us to work with the epidemiologist. There's
Yes.
a lot of questions that they could start to answer for us. So if they're taking the food inspector, let's try to work with the epidemiologist. Also, we have a new clerk in the office.
Saw that.
Oh, yes, Jen.
I noticed that when we got
I
a
noticed that too.
board book. I do, Mr. Chair, one question for Susan.
Please.
It's not on your report, but could we, as the subcommittee for nursing, I know we don't have any candidates, but could we review and maybe discuss the current job description and requirements for the nurse?
Sure, I mean.
I did meet with, just, if you know, I did meet with Joanne Faust, and she has completely, she's...
Exhausted all her, I know.
No, she hasn't exhausted, she's really, she's putting everything out again.
Yeah.
She's putting everything out again.
She's phenomenal. She's been very supportive. I've spoken to her multiple times about marketing posting, but we've also talked a little bit about I'm not talking about
About the requirements.
Yeah, I'm not talking about a rewrite. I think about what what the requirement is for the nurse, for a public nurse, and maybe there is room for discussion of what the requirement is to be the town nurse.
So,
Based on like what the salary is and what the requirements of the job.
I did also meet with Mr. Sagarino, because I have time during the day, about the salary. The salary's way too low.
But I'm not even so much sure if it's just the salary, Ed. I think if we could take a look at, what the requirements are,
Requirements or like the
Well, like-
actual job duties of the nurse?
No, not so much. I think we already know what the responsibilities are, but we're saying that it has to be obviously you're looking for an RN.
weren't you going from bachelor's to associates?
Yes, but we haven't had that discussion as a subcommittee, based on the salary, the current salary and the requirements of the job. I think, we're looking for an RN that passed the NCLEX.
Right.
Would we have to deal with the union if we did that?
It's a good question.
That's a question for Joanne.
All right, let me follow up with Joanne then, because I thought I had that question.
I think that, that would be an interesting.
Well, how is it that the shared services, we hired a nurse already and we can't
that's
find a
that's
town
If
nurse?
it's a part-time position.
It's part-time. and
Okay.
It's a
That's a
part-time
different-
position, and this
That's
is,
true.
this is
And
full.
the other is a
Okay.
posting, is a
Yeah,
union.
it's a union position.
job.
Okay.
And if the
That's a
union,
really good question, but I think
I don't know.
we might have maybe get a different pool. And passing the NCLEX is passing the NCLEX, right?
So if you want to meet as a subcommittee.
Yeah, that's what I'm asking, and we could probably post.
Just let me know
Right, I'll
when you want to
talk
meet,
with Ed and what works.
and we post it.
We'll
Okay.
post it, they'll be fine.
All right, I'll send it.
Would you ask that question? I'm going away for 5 days. I'm leaving tomorrow
get
morning,
a vacation.
5 a.m.
All right, we're not talking about this week because we don't even
I'm gonna
have.
leave tomorrow, I think, too.
Yeah.
Do you want me to call her, or are you going to call her? You going to ask that question?
If you want to, feel free, whatever you want. I can,
See if you know.
You may know more about she's gonna probably explain a little bit more to you.
Yeah,
about
there is
the
a,
union.
if there's a union issue,
Okay.
I think it's just something we should discuss.
there's a union issue, the board has to approve that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, I have to.
Do I have a motion to approve the Director of Public Health report?
So moved.
So moved, second. All in favor?
It's freezing in here.
Oh, stop it.
Freezing.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adjourn?
Aye.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn. Second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Night. Oh, my God.
The longest meeting ever.
No, last.
The last meeting was just as long.